ever wondered how massive shipments of illegal weapons or millions in illicit funds travel across a country without anyone noticing? They don't take the main roads. They use a hidden, invisible logistics network. This chart shows two very different worlds prior to the 1990s. On one side, we have organized criminals. Their only goal is making untraceable money. On the other side, we have terrorist groups. Their motivation is ideological chaos and creating public fear. For a long time, these two groups stayed completely out of each other's way. But the Indian government eventually realized something had changed. In 1993, an official government investigation called the Vohra Committee formally recognized that these historically isolated groups had started working together. Criminals already possessed a well-built hidden highway of safe houses and smuggling routes. Terrorist modules started renting this exact same highway. They used the criminals' pre-existing pipelines to move sleeper cells and high-end weaponry across state borders entirely undetected. Security experts formally call this strategic partnership the terror-crime nexus. When profit-driven criminals team up with ideologically-driven terrorists, they form a well-funded, heavily armed parallel system of governance. It directly threatens the sovereign authority of the state and the rule of law. To understand how this partnership functions day to day, we have to look at the money. Terrorist organizations require massive, continuous, and completely untraceable funding to buy weapons and train recruits. The criminal underworld provides those funds. They generate enormous amounts of cash by distributing fake Indian currency notes, and they move that money across borders using Hawala, an ancient, paperless transfer system that leaves zero digital footprint. This financial synergy becomes incredibly destructive in border regions like Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir. Here, criminal cartels intentionally smuggle vast quantities of narcotics across the borderline. This creates what we call narco-terrorism, and it serves a horrifying dual purpose. The drug sales generate immediate cash to fund terror operations, while simultaneously devastating the local youth. By breaking down the social fabric, they make the local population highly susceptible to terrorist radicalization. Local drug trafficking acts as a calculated fuel line that sustains mass terror operations across the region. Recently, this network has expanded far beyond physical border fences. It has moved into the digital shadows of the Darknet. In this digital space, criminal hackers execute sophisticated ransomware attacks against critical systems, locking up vital data until a massive ransom is paid. The hackers then share their extorted profits and stolen sensitive data with extremist groups. This allows terror modules to fund digital sabotage or real-world lone wolf attacks without ever meeting the criminals in person. This chart illustrates the staggering global scale of the problem. Data from the United Nations and financial watchdogs shows transnational organized crime generates nearly $870 billion annually. That is an illicit economy larger than the entire GDP of many nations. Because the modern network is borderless, digital, and infinitely wealthy, relying strictly on traditional law enforcement tactics is no longer enough to stop it. If we go back to our hidden highway metaphor, arresting an individual person only creates a temporary gap. The network is built to replace people quickly, meaning security forces have to target the entire highway system to see a lasting change. The first step is mapping those hidden roads by getting agencies to talk to each other. Instead of keeping police files and intelligence reports in separate offices, hubs like the Multi-Agency Center and NATGRID act as a central digital brain where all that data is combined instantly. Once the network is mapped, the next step is financial choking, cutting off the fuel. Authorities enforce strict laws like the Prevention of Money Laundering Act to trace and freeze the physical and digital assets of the fake shell companies hiding the money. Because this money crosses borders, India coordinates deeply with international watchdogs like the Financial Action Task Force to track and freeze illicit funds globally. With the intelligence shared and the funds frozen, the state deploys specialized roadblocks. Elite police units like the Anti-Terrorist Squad and Special Task Force execute highly coordinated operations. These elite units are trained specifically to strike at the network's interface, at the exact moment and location where local street criminals hand off weapons or money to transnational terrorists. Security experts from groups like the Second Administrative Reforms Commission argue that a piecemeal approach won't work. They recommend a unified national security strategy, essentially a single master playbook that coordinates every part of the government. True national security requires a whole-of-government effort. By combining high-tech data sharing, international financial tracking, and elite tactical units, the state can finally sever the structural roots of the terror crime complex.